Let me ask you something. Do you ever wonder if there's a perfect copy of you out there, somewhere in the universe? Or maybe something simpler, like two grains of sand that are exactly the same? Well, the 17th century philosopher Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz had a pretty startling answer to that question. And it's all wrapped up in a principle called the identity of indiscernibles. And trust me, once you get it, you might never look at the world or yourself the same way again.
So let's just start with that huge question. In this whole sprawling cosmos, do you think it's even possible for two separate things to be perfect, flawless copies of each other? I mean, down to the very last atom.
Okay, think about snowflakes. We've all heard that old saying, right? No two snowflakes are alike. But is that actually scientifically true? Or is it just a nice poetic idea? Could there have been two, somewhere in all of history, that were perfect mirror images?
Or hey, what about two tiny grains of sand on an endless beach? I mean, they look identical to us. But can we be 100% certain that there isn't some microscopic, invisible difference that makes each one unique?
Well, to this whole puzzle, the 17th century genius Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz had a simple but totally world-shattering answer. An absolute, no questions asked, no. And with that one word, he basically threw a wrench into centuries of just common sense.
So how on earth did he back this up? Well, it all comes down to this really elegant idea, the principle of the identity of indiscernibles. Now, I know it sounds super complicated, but the core idea is actually incredibly simple. It says that if you have two things and they share every single property, I mean everything, then they aren't actually two different things. They're one and the same thing.
Let's make this real with a little thought experiment. We'll call it the two apples test. So, imagine we check every possible property. Their color is identical, their shape, their weight, a perfect match. We look at every tiny scratch, and they're in the exact same spots. We even zoom all the way down to the atomic level, and yep, their atoms are arranged in the exact same way. Okay, so if you've done all that, what do you have? Well, according to Leibniz's logic, the conclusion is kind of a mind-bender. You don't have two identical apples, you just have one apple. In order for there to be two separate things, there has to be some kind of difference.
Now, you can't just drop an idea that radical on the world and not expect a fight, right? And oh boy, it sparked a fascinating showdown between two of the biggest philosophical minds of the time.
And this brings us to what I like to call the Great Water Drop Debate. In one corner, you've got the famous philosopher, John Locke, and in the other, our guy, Leibniz. And their whole debate centered on two, supposedly identical, drops of water.
Locke made the argument that probably feels the most natural to all of us. He basically said, come on, of course you can have two identical drops. Their difference is simple. One is here, and the other one is over there. Their location is what makes them different. Seems totally reasonable, right?
But Leibniz fired right back. He said that location is just an external property. It's about where the thing is, not what the thing is. He argued that for two drops to be truly separate, there has to be some kind of internal difference, some quality inside the drops themselves that sets them apart. Just being in a different spot wasn't enough.
And Leibniz's comeback was just brilliant. He essentially challenged Locke by saying, you think they're identical? Fine, look closer. Use a microscope. His whole point was that if you zoom in far enough, you will always find a difference. Maybe a unique swirl of molecules, or a tiny variation in temperature. There's always something.
So why was Leibniz so hung up on this? Was this just some fun philosophical game for him? Not at all. For Leibniz, this one principle was like the very first domino in a long, long line, and once it fell, it knocked over a whole bunch of other ideas about how reality itself works.
And the consequences of this are just staggering. I mean, think about it. If no two things can be identical, it means every fundamental particle in the universe is unique. It means the whole idea of perfectly interchangeable atoms goes right out the window. It even suggests that a true vacuum, just pure empty space, can't exist because any 2 points in that emptiness would be indistinguishable from each other. And for Leibniz, this even tied into his theology. A perfect creator wouldn't be inefficient and wasteful by making two identical things when one would do the job.
Okay, this is all fascinating stuff from the 17th century, but let's pull it into the here and now. Let's talk about why this matters to you. Because this old philosophical principle has a really profound and I think beautiful implication for every single one of us.
The ultimate takeaway here is just so powerful. If Leibniz is right, then our universe isn't some cosmic factory churning out endless copies. It's more like a gallery, filled with one-of-a-kind masterpieces. From the biggest, most spectacular galaxy down to the tiniest pebble, everything is an original. There are no duplicates. Not now, not ever.
That's the number. 1. Every single thing, every living being, is a totally unrepeatable event in the history of space-time. And that, of course, includes you. In the entire grand story of existence, there has only ever been one of you, and there will only ever be one of you.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. In a universe literally filled with originals, what makes you, you? You know, it's so much more than your DNA. It's the unique combination of every single experience you've had, every thought you've thought, every scar you've earned, and every dream you chase. That whole mix, that's your cosmic fingerprint. What does yours look like?